It's 6:00 p.m. I'm going to call the council to order. Please rise for the invocation and pledge of allegiance. Please bow your heads.
Okay, let's pray. Kind and gracious Father, we come before you this evening as we're going to discuss and look into issues on behalf of our residents. We ask for your wisdom, we ask for your guidance, and we all pray in the name of Jesus, who is our Savior. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now the Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
You may be seated. For the record, we have a quorum of council present. I'm going to go ahead and move to agenda item number 2, mayor announcements. I want to welcome everyone to the meeting tonight and welcome to everyone that is viewing our meeting on live stream via YouTube. We're all glad that you're here. I just have a couple of announcements. First, I want to give you a big thank you to Paul Knott and the Keene Chamber for a fabulous parade and spectacular fireworks show. I even enjoyed the encore afterwards, so you got me on that one this year. That was great, the big finale. It was one of the best parades that we've had, and there was a huge turnout. So thank you, Paul, and all of the volunteers that helped pull off that annual event. We appreciate you. Second, don't forget we have Movie in the Park. It's an event this Saturday, December 9. It's the movie called Elf that we're going to be presenting at 6 p.m. We've now moved the location from the park into the community center room because of some high winds that we're expecting on Friday and Saturday. So it's now movie in the community center room. So I'm assuming they can still bring their chairs and blankets and whatever they want, and refreshments will still be provided. We'll have something there. Okay. Then our Christmas market is going to be on Sunday, December 10 from noon to 8. And I'm excited about this event, which wouldn't be possible without all the help that Mr. Batla has put into this and all the coordinating. I appreciate everything that he's done. We're also expecting high winds this weekend that's going to keep us from setting up too early. So we're going to wait and do the setup for the market Sunday morning at 8 a.m. So we need any and all volunteers that can show up and help us set up chairs, canopies, tents, decorations, everything that we need. We'll have to pull it off pretty quickly before everybody starts coming. So if anybody can help with that, we'd appreciate it. If you're a vendor for that event, remember that you are supposed to pay a $20 gift card admittance fee or $20 in canned or boxed foods. So if you haven't done that, then make sure you drop that off at the city or bring it with you on Sunday morning. For that event, just to give you a little brief excerpt of what's happening, we have 50 vendor booths set up, local entertainment that's going to be performing. We've got CTA, we've got groups from Keene ISD, groups from Johnson County, cheer squad that's going to be there, and also Clayton Reed and Joe Ray is going to be performing during that event. And then we'll have Pictures with Santa from 4 to 5:30. George Velez is going to be there with some decorations. He's going to bring, I believe, a truck and some maybe hay bales for some kind of a studio setup. He's also going to bring us a sleigh for Santa and Mrs. Claus to sit in for professional pictures. And I saw him post that he was going to sell 5x7 prints for $15 each. So you can either bring your own camera or you can get him to take a picture and then contract with him. I also want to mention that the Keene Police Association is doing a toy drive for the Children's Advocacy Center. So if anyone can purchase a new unwrapped toy and drop it off at the Keene Police Department, the deadline for their drop-off time is December 15. And this is a very worthy cause. This organization, of course, helps all of our needy children and stuff in the county, and that's very important to us. Let's see, I think that's it for now. At this time, I'm actually going to do a proclamation, Council, so if you will indulge me. I'm just going to read it here from the podium. The City of Keene proclamation, whereas on this day, 82 years ago, Imperial Japan launched an unprovoked attack on the United States naval base of Pearl Harbor, and whereas 2,403 service members and civilians were killed, destroying much of our nation's Pacific Fleet, And whereas following this fateful day, President Roosevelt called on Congress to declare an act of war, stating that December 7, 1941 would be a date which will live in infamy. And whereas I would like to encourage the citizens of Keene and all citizens to reflect on the courage and heroism shown by our brave service members on that day. And whereas every year we are reminded of the sacrifices our service members make defending democracy, risking life for our country on the days and years that have followed. Now therefore, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Keene, Texas, I do hereby affix my hand to proclaim Thursday, the 7th day of December 2023, as Pearl Harbor Remembrance Day in Keene, Texas. Okay, that's all for my announcements. Any other presentations that any other staff needs to make at this time? Okay, I'm going to move on to agenda item number 3, public comments. If you filled out a yellow card and you wrote that you wanted to talk about the Central Appraisal District, I'm going to let you talk during that agenda item for context for us. But if you did not and you want to talk during public comments, I'm going to call those people now. So right now I'm going to call Paul Knott.
Good evening.
We're indebted to Type A and Type B. They provide $2,600 each, that's $5,200. Pinnacle Bank stepped in with $2,000, so that's $7,200. But our expenses are about $12,000. So the other $5,000 comes from the community. And most of it is in gifts of $130 or so. So there are 20 businesses up and down Old Betsy and around the area who joined with Type A and Type B and Pinnacle Bank in making that parade happen. So,
Well, let's give them a round of applause. All right, next I have Debbie Bells.
Well, I'm reading again. Debbie Bells, 2900 County Road 805B, Cleburne. Good evening, council members, Mrs. Parrish. I also want to say a huge thank you to the Chamber of Commerce and all the volunteers assisted in running this amazing Christmas parade. It was beautifully done with all the floats that entered, and from what I can see, it was extremely well organized. The fireworks show at the end, amazing. Now I come to you, Mrs. Parrish, regarding the exit of our city secretary, Tabitha Mansell. I have submitted an open records request, my request, nobody else's, regarding the exit, and I was quite surprised at the results. The exit interview form that she filled out was not a positive rating for our city, and definitely not towards the mayor. There's a section for response of supervisory conditions, excellent, good, fair, and poor.
Okay, Ms. Bells, before you continue, I just need to make you aware that we cannot read off the exit interview of a city secretary that has now left, that's no longer an employee.
It's public record.
During an open meeting. I'm sorry, but we cannot read it off during an open meeting. This is a privileged information that was discussed during council and during executive session between
No, this is a
council
public
members.
record I
I
requested.
understand, but it was done during executive session with the council members and the mayor present, so the information that's in that exit interview was presented to us in closed session. It's privileged, and the only individual that can read that in a public meeting and give their consent is the employee themselves, Ms. Mansell. So I'm sorry, you cannot read any information
Is that
that's in that
correct,
exit
Brent?
interview.
Okay, well, then I can save this for the next meeting. I'll get the following from Brent and the attorney, because this was a public record that she submitted via
I
email,
understand.
so it is a
And-
public
And you
record.
are allowed to gain that public record through open records request. You're just not allowed to read it during a public meeting.
Okay, Brent, if you would please follow up on that, I would appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Bells. Is that it?
Thank you.
Okay, agenda item number 4, reports. Receive a report and hold a discussion regarding the city manager's report.
Evening, Mayor and Council. I'm going to start by echoing what you said, Mayor, about our Christmas market. We were going to set up Friday. Winds are supposed to be 18 gusting to 30, so I don't think we can anchor those down well enough. So we're going to try a grassroots effort to get some local volunteers to help us Sunday morning at 8. And we will put that out on social media, our social media channels, kind of as a reminder. Just a little bit of an update. You've seen basketball court number 2 is up. It's complete. We are working on getting some lighting out there to it, but it's being used. So we can check that one off the list. I have an employee update. I'm going to turn it over to Nathan first.
Mayor and Council, I want to thank you all for the years that I've been here with the city. Next Friday, the 15th, will be my last day with the city. I'll be moving to a different municipality. I want to thank all the city staff. This city has very great staff. Please don't ever lose hope in our staff. They are very great. They do everything they can to provide the best service to the organization, to our citizens. They're top-notch. So I want to thank you all for the 4 years that I've been with the organization, and I'll definitely miss working with each and every one of y'all.
Thank you, Nathan. You've done a great job for the city. We appreciate you.
Yeah, and I'd just like to take a couple minutes to recognize Nathan. I've only been here 4 months, and I've already learned I've just been very impressed with his dedication to the city, his work ethic. It's incredible. We are going to lose a good one. We're not just losing our HR director, we're losing, I'm going to read you a few of the extra things that he does for us. He does pretty much most of our IT-based things, our website management, Facebook management, our IT support here at the city, our entry badge systems, our email systems, phone systems, our streaming systems. That's just on the IT side. He helps out with some of the finance items with FundView and the credit card transactions with Citibank. He helps out with some of the city secretary duties, with open records requests, posting of agendas, budgets, etc., and his HR duties, which are a lengthy list. So I just wanted to recognize all of the stuff that he does for this city. And great employee, and you will be missed here for sure.
Thank you, Nathan.
Okay, one other update, the December 21st council meeting. I wanted to have a little discussion on that. We were looking to see, it being so close to Christmas, if we were going to have a quorum, if we were going to be able to have a meeting. We do have one issue that we, at minimum, that we really need to address on that date at a council meeting, and that is our Planning and Zoning Commission notice went out, and or in that time, that specific time frame, the notice, and it was posted that it would be at the 21st council meeting that we would be have that on the agenda. So that being said, I'll just put that out there to council for consideration. We do have a very important item that we do have to cover. We can try to keep it light, push things so we have a quicker meeting, but so
Is
for your
everybody going to be
consideration.
available that day, right before Christmas? Okay,
So we'll keep it as light as we can.
okay. That sounds good.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Batla? Okay, moving on. Reports B, receive a report and hold a discussion regarding the October 2023 financials. Mr. Williams?
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Good to see you again. One moment. What I'm presenting is the October financials for the city. This is the first month of the new year. And here, just something, just added difference. I put a comparison to October of the previous year, just for your viewing and transparency's sake. As you notice, for this first month of the year, you look at the bottom line numbers, we had 232,788 compared to last year, 168,966. So that's quite a increase just from that. One thing of note is if you look at the comparisons of all of them, one that really stands out, kudos to our fire chief and his hard work, is we have increased revenue to 96,000 this year in October compared to 22,000 last year. That's a 70+ thousand increase from that. And that's really the percentage difference of the 2 years, 2 months comparison. Any questions in regards to this? Thank you. In our expenditures, I did very similar, the same thing. As you can see, it's just a little bit more on this year than comparison to last October. Most of that is that 70,000 of our communication services that is contracted out. We have to pay that October 1st of every year. So I kind of highlighted that to show the difference between October this year to October of last year. We paid the 70,000 last year sometime in November, so that's why the difference is there. So, any questions? And as you can see, we're well below the target of 8.3%. We at 7.1%, even with that 70,000 communication service contract. Here's our sales, very similar to last year. It's a little bit more of last year than this year. That dive is in retrospect to several things that is vying. We had some issues at the state capitol in regards to the sales tax in one of their sessions. So this is somewhat of an impact to that. It's a small decrease, but this is something we cannot control because this is during the session, during the legislature throughout the whole state of Texas. So all cities are impacted. Property tax, very similar to I indicated about the property tax dealing with exemptions, frozen taxes, so forth, all through the sessions down in Austin. And as I know, even as a homeowner myself, I'm impacted with those taxes. And it's a little different on the roll call this year and probably affect next year's as well. Water and sewer funds, as you can see in the comparison to last year, a big jump. Mainly is that we had a lot of revenue increase somewhat with the number of customers. Not so much of the fees. We had more customers this year than last year. So we'll be, probably our city manager will be talking about fees later on in the year prior to budget or what have you. But that's very, very important. But as you can see, we are steady and doing well on that. The percentage is very similar, so in comparison to the budget. So we are steadying the ship and doing well. And detail, those are the numbers for the water revenues and expenditures. Very similar in that the uptick, once again, is the number of connections and new customers. Sewer, very similar numbers as well. The numbers, even on the expense side, they doing just as much work, but being very conservative as far as the cost that is going out the door in comparison to last year, which is kudos to Derek and his staff in Public Works. Last but not least, these are numbers that is in pool cash, money markets, COVID Care Act or ARPA funds, the fire engine and the brush truck. Those are our numbers. Those are in separate accounts as required by the state statutes and requirements. We are governed by those that is regulated in our Texas Constitution. One thing of note, I must and I will have to report our federal funds. You have to be very transparent on that when you report to the federal government because they can do a federal audit. It's totally different from the external audit. I have to stay in full compliance on
I'm sorry,
everything.
Mr. Williams, I just want to stop you for just a minute. I'm sorry, I'm seeing a disturbance in the back of the room, and I would ask that you please be quiet and refrain from whispering, because I can actually hear you, and I'm partially deaf. So I would ask that you please be quiet, or I need you to exit the room and then come back when you can be quiet. Thank you. I'm sorry, Mr. Williams, go ahead and continue.
Yes, Mayor. And so in regards to the ARPA and COVID Care Act, 2024 is the year of reporting. So me and the city manager be working hand in hand and arm to arm with that, because if we do not report accurately and correctly and according to their laws, we will not get any further federal funding in the future. That's from the federal government. So I want to let you know months ahead of time of what I'll be doing to make sure we are in compliance, the full letter of the law. And you heard me quote the law on several occasions. That's the reason why. They look at everything outside of what we do with their money. They want to look at everything with state money and any other grants. So keep in mind, it's not that I'm touching on this touchy matter, but I must be in compliance as a financial officer for the city. And I must stay in that regard. So any questions that you may have, just let me know.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Williams?
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, agenda item number 5 is public hearing. We do not have any public hearing items tonight, so I'm going to move along to agenda item number 6, consent agenda. Council, I've been informed that in the packet that we received, the minutes needed one correction. So tonight, we're going to be approving the consent agenda, but with the minutes knowing that they have a correction added to them, and it was what was highlighted in yellow, and it's before you tonight. So at this time, I'm going to read off the 3 items that we have under consent and ask for a motion to approve these, or if you would like to have one of these items removed, just please let me know. A, consider approval of city council minutes dated November 16, 2023 with corrections. B, consider approval of resolution number 2023-433 to remove Nathan Drambarunu as an authorized signatory to all the City of Keene accounts at Pinnacle Bank. And C, consider approval of resolution number 2023-434 to add Don Martin as an authorized signatory to all City of Keene accounts at Pinnacle Bank. Council, would you like to have anything removed, or if you'd like to make a motion?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Foster to approve the consent agenda and a second by Easley. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. It's unanimous, motion is carried. Agenda item number 7. We're going to discuss, consider, and take possible action regarding A, consider approval of resolution number 2023-435, affirming the casting of votes in the 2024-2025 election of the Board of Directors for the Central Appraisal District of Johnson County, Texas. All right, Council, you had in your packet a staff report that gave you the background and the history of this. At the last meeting, we nominated John Wood, Dwayne Golding, Paul Jones, Amy Lingo, and Don Beeson Sr. By a vote of 5 to 5 and 1, I guess, abstained. And so this year, the City of Keene is entitled to 37 votes for up to 5 candidates. City Council may cast all votes for 1 candidate or divide them up for 2 or more candidates. And the deadline for the voting is December 15, 2023, so we do have to make a decision at tonight's meeting. So if you'll look at the page that's in your packet, resolution number 2023-435, you will see a copy of the resolution that we will be submitting to the Johnson County CAD. And it has under there a list of all those candidates and a bunch of blank lines. And if you'll get your pens out, I'm going to go with you through these numbers because this vote has already gone through multiple boards across the county. And so this is kind of a numbers game and something that we just have to know how they're scoring, and it might help us make our decision on where we want to apply our 37 votes toward. Because some of these individuals are already on the board now. They've already been accepted and approved. So we don't need to cast our votes toward them. So Don Beeson Sr. is the first name listed on our sheet. He currently has 95. So if you want to put a 95 by him. Vance Castles has 834. So he is already approved on the board. So you can kind of cross him out. We don't want to give our votes to him. He doesn't need them now. Toby Ford is at 126. Dwayne Golding, tell me if I'm going too fast. Dwayne Golding is at 578. Paul Jones is at 25. Amy Lingo is at 834. So you can cross her name out. She's already approved to be on the board, so we don't need to cast any votes toward her. Janine Brzak, if I'm saying that right, 29 for her. Brenda Webb has 108. And the last one, John Wood, had 1,001. So he also is already approved to be on the CAD board, so you can cross his name out. So we're looking at casting our votes for any of the remaining members.
Mayor, what
Yes,
is
sir.
that threshold that it gets approved on the board?
834. They have to have 834 votes to make it on the board. So according to these numbers that I just read off to you, the next one in line is Dwayne Golding. So right now, he needs the votes. He's the closest one to gaining enough votes so he can get on the board. And then you can see how the other ones score in comparison. So, like I said, this is all kind of a numbers game. You're trying to give your votes to the person that strategically can then gain enough to get on the board. So at this time, I have several people that would like to speak during this agenda item. So I'm going to call them up now. And I'm just going to go in order, if that's okay with everyone. So the first name on this sheet is Don Beeson Sr. So if he would like to come up and speak to us, I have a card for him.
Good evening, council, and thank you for letting me speak to you. My name is Don Beeson. I live at 607 Woodlawn here in Keene. I've been on the Council Central Appraisal District Board of Directors for about 12 years. 7 of the 8 years I was a county commissioner. I was a representative on the board, and 4 years since I've been retired. 10 years I've been retired. 4 of those years I've been on the board. Central Appraisal Board is made up much like City Council is. We hire a central primary appraiser and be your city manager, and then the board is like your city council. Basically, they vote on things that have to do operational things, contracts, budgets, have nothing to do with appraisals. The appraisals are done by people who are trained and meet certain requirements as issued by the state to do the appraisals. The comptroller of the state is the one that supervises those appraisals and who audits those appraisals. They randomly audit once a year. Appraisals have to be within 5% of their value, plus or minus 5%. If they're consistently different from that, then your school boards actually get, not the county, not the cities, the school boards get placed on a non-compliance list. If they're on 2 years in a row, they're dinged for that by some formula that the state has, and a reduction in funding for the school districts. So there's very little leeway on the appraisals. When you are elected to the board, you take an oath of office that you'll have nothing to do with the appraisals, that you won't lobby for or against appraisals, so it's totally independent, has absolutely nothing to do with appraisals. And it's ironic because the Central Appraisal District gives those taxing entities the numbers of values of a house. And it's strictly up to the taxing entities, the rate that they set the taxes. So the lower the values on the house and you know how much money you need to operate, well, then the higher the tax rate can be. So it doesn't really have anything to do with evaluations. Each entity that sets the taxes on those evaluations. So that's strictly what it is. I'd appreciate your vote for that. I've never had to lobby for a vote before, but I have some friends here who have a little different opinion than mine, but that's okay. That's what it's all about. But I would appreciate being a representative on the board. I know I'm a long shot right now, but thank you for your listening to me, and I'd ask you for your votes, for the Keene votes for me. Thank you.
Thank you,
And I
Don.
do need to go to a funeral viewing, so I'll be leaving here in just a second, okay?
Okay. All right, Dwayne Golding?
Thank you, Mayor, Council, staff. I'm Dwayne Goulding. I live at 4837 West FM 916 in Rio Vista. I'm a taxpayer, just like you are. Taxpayers that I've come across, they don't understand how the CAD system operates. Therefore, they don't have a lot of confidence in the system. You can't have confidence in something you don't understand. The system actually, to many people, appears to be a mystery or a secret. I don't think it's a secret. I just don't think anybody bothers to tell you. And the taxpayers pay for it. So you don't know what you're paying for, other than you get a tax bill. So taxpayers, therefore, cannot know if they're getting a fair shake because they don't know what the system is. Now, the state of Texas, as Mr. Beeson commented, they mandate a lot by law and regulation the operations of the CAD. They mandate the approach. They use a methodology for appraisals called the USPAP, Uniform Standards of Professional Appraisal Practices, mandated by the state. That's an approach. It's not the result. So that's a significant point. State also does not mandate transparency. So there's no mandate that says anyone has to tell you what's going on or how the system works. The mystery is okay. So I think it's time to shine a light on the CAD system on behalf of the taxing entities and the taxpayers. So I'm asking for your votes for the CAD board. A vote for me is a vote for a transparent CAD where the system is open to everyone. A vote for me is a vote for the taxpayers and the taxing entities to be fairly represented. I'm going to ask you to do the right thing. You're always respected when you do the right thing. Let the taxpayers in. Let them know what's going on. If I'm on the board, I pledge to you, along with my colleagues, that we will do so. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Amy Lingo?
Can we ask him a question?
Sure.
Hey, Mr. Goulding?
Sorry, one of our council would like to ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
So I heard you say that the approach was the state mandated that, but not the result?
That's correct. It's a methodology. Here's how you go about it, but the result is not mandated by the state, other than what Mr. Beeson indicated, that it has to be auditable by the comptroller.
So can you modify the result then? This board that's the CAD board, can it modify? No.
No, CAD board has no power to alter, modify, or input to the appraisals themselves. Mr. Beeson's correct. It's a governing body. It's not an appraisal body.
Okay, so how do you intend to make it transparent to those of us who are paying taxes then?
Have you ever heard of the USPAP before?
No, sir?
They're there. You've already been informed. The one thing that you didn't know about. What I want to do is, and if I'm on the board, and we will have a majority, we want to put together an outreach program, one element of which would be a presentation that we can give taxpayers that kind of outlines how the CAD operates, so that you're informed, you know what the deal is, how things work, and I think knowledge is power, and you guys would have the opportunity, if you have an issue with your appraisal, you're a little more knowledgeable. So if you're talking to an appraiser, you're going to be more informed. If you're in a protest hearing, you'll be more informed. The openness is important to me. I'll give you another example. You guys as a body have to publish your agenda 72 hours in advance by state law, right? You have to publish the agenda and the minutes once the minutes are approved, right?
Right.
And you have to have a schedule of meetings. It's on your website. I know that because I looked at it. Go look at the CAD's website, see if you can find any of that information. And their board meetings by state law are open to the public. If you don't know when it is, that does you no good. So I would push to have a regular meeting schedule, have the meetings posted, have the agendas posted, and have the minutes posted, and be held to the same standards that you guys are.
So
Any
is it
other
not being
questions?
posted anywhere now?
Huh?
Is it not being posted now?
Not that I can find,
Okay, all right,
and I have poured all over it. Can't find it.
okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay. You know,
Thank
anything
you.
else?
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Amy Lingo?
I thought she wasn't going to speak.
She filled out a card.
Oh.
I'm going through the cards.
Well, thank you for allowing me to come before you. My name is Amy Lingo, and I'm a property owner in Keene and Cleburne. I'm here to ask for your support for our citizens candidate, Dwayne Golding, who is seeking election from your council for the Johnson County Central Appraisal District Board of Directors. I know you have another very good man who has served in this role and is also seeking re-election. But I'd like to explain to you why I would ask for your votes to be cast to Mr. Dwayne Golding. He touched on it quite a bit. There's a large group of citizens that many refer to as the horse barn. That's because some of our ideas started in the horse barn in grassroots. These ideas evolved, and they're based on our personal experiences with the appraisal process, a culmination of our business endeavors, and a principle that property ownership is essential to the American dream. Mr. Dwayne Golding was inspirational in combining these ideas into a platform, and this platform includes transparency, education, and accountability to the forefront of the appraisal district. Transparency, because our experience has been that it's not an easy task to approach the Central Appraisal District in an attempt to understand valuations. I can show you examples in which comparable properties have huge differences in values simply because one neighbor understood the process better than another. Mr. Dwayne Golding has vowed that if he is elected, he will work closely with the Central Appraisal District to put together educational programs so that both the taxpayers and the taxing entities have additional resources available to them regarding the appraisal process and how evaluations and tax rates affect your bill. These outreach programs will also include meeting times and agendas that will be easier to find. This leads us to accountability. We want to make sure that our representatives in the Central Appraisal District are responsive when working with the taxpayer and the taxing entities. It's been brought to our attention, not only by the taxpayers, but by the taxing entities we've been speaking to, that for whatever reason, a timely response is not always available to those that are represented. On the surface, the responsiveness seems to vary depending on which entity is inquiring or depending on the property owner. We are seeking fairness and representation, no matter if you have 37 or 837 votes, the latter being enough to put one member on the board. I hope that you will see that your vote counts and it is important to us. And Dwayne Golding will give you representation on the board that supports transparency, education, and accountability. So we appreciate your consideration.
Thank you, Amy. Any questions for Amy? Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
Okay, Jennifer Thompson?
Hello. Thank you, Council and Mayor, for your time. Citizens have been fighting for years for property tax relief. We have made major headway this year with the ability to elect citizens to the CAD board. We have had overwhelming support from the majority of the ISDs and councils in Johnson County in this effort. A few of our citizens have secured seats, and we could secure one more seat. I ask you for your votes tonight to go to Mr. Dwayne Golding, which would help him secure a seat on the CAD board. By voting Mr. Golding, you show that you stand with the taxpayers for greater transparency on the CAD board. I also am a firm believer that those who work hard prevail, and Mr. Hunley and his team have put in the time, effort, and work that deserves those votes. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, John Wood?
I am John Wood, and I live right outside of Grandview, and I appreciate your time very much. I won't take much of it up. Again, don't vote for me. I'm already on the board. So I'll give you the pitch that I really have wanted to give every time I've gotten in front of a board. And I give pieces and parts, and it's finally falling all together into a cohesive idea. And that is, this is America. This is not a state that runs against the people. I want to work for the people, with the people, and pledge my fidelity to the taxpayers in my work on the board. And, you know, there are things the board can't do, but there are powers the board does have. And that was not mentioned at all. And it has been operating as its own entity with little or no public input. And there's the state, who has much power over the cities in this state. They're constitutional, that's the way it is. But we also have a chance to be involved as citizens and be the executive committee that oversees the operation locally. I think that's the nuts and bolts of it. And you will be better informed. You will be cared for. I mean, Dwayne, he works. That's what he does. He works on things. And he's more quiet about it. I'm a bit more of an orator. That's part of what I do. But he works behind the scenes to research every question that comes up. And I think that's a valuable part. Our team was selected for their different strengths. I will not always agree, but that's what a board's for, with my fellow board members. But I will work, and I will do what I do best, and that is to make sure that the promises that are made by our group are kept. And if I don't, I will know, because I'm going to pester people with what I know in whatever form that they ask. Because it's paramount that the members of the board are thoughtful for the residents of the state and the people who bought their homes. Thank you. Do you have any questions for me at all? Anything? Thank you. Thank you for your
Questions?
time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Fernando Rodriguez?
Hello, good evening, everyone. Well, my name is Fernando Rodriguez. I'm a business owner in the area, representing a local community in certain ways. The reason we're here today is to bring to awareness of how high is the appraisal district lately. You know, it's getting out of control. As a business owner, you can work a little harder, few extra sales, and there you go. You can make the payment. But when you're on a fixed income, whenever you're limited to what you can make, it makes it very, very hard. And I'm very concerned over our foreclosing housing system because it's happening. It's happening. We cannot ignore that. We cannot ignore that it's happening in big scale. And I always tell people, let's not forget who made it Johnson County, your local people. Let's be out there for them. Let's support them. You know, I represent a nonprofit organization, which is a food bank. It's called the Bread Connection. And each month, it seems like it's growing, it's growing. Well, it's a great thing, but at the same time, it's not good. It's not good that we have more people out on the streets. It's not good that we have more people that lose their houses. Why? Because a lot of it has to be because prices have gone out of control. I personally received a huge bill on property taxes and went all the way up to, you know, over 30% over last year. That's a big increase. And we're working on protesting that, by the way. But that's because, again, this has not been watched carefully. It has not been studied. And again, you can't just, as a business owner, you cannot just sell somebody a bill without an explanation why. You see, and this is what these gentlemen are doing right here, trying to, hey, let's explain people why is it we're doing the increases on the pricing, but at the same time has to be a limit to what they can do, not just, hey, you know, your property is worth now twice than what you pay for it. And I feel sorry for those people that are losing their houses. And again, I want to do as much as I can for this community, but I would highly recommend that you guys vote for these guys and support them. And I really appreciate for what they do, Craig Howling and all these guys. I really appreciate what you guys do. And let's support them because we are here for our people. So I want to thank you so much, each and every one. And let's make it happen. Let's work together towards that. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Hunley? I saved you for last. Sorry.
Hello. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Craig Hunley, and I've lived in Johnson County all my life, and I have been working for the last 4.5 years to reform our broken property tax system in Austin and locally. This election is about whether or not you trust the people who pays the bills to oversee Central Appraisal District. Folks, we desperately need citizens on the Central Appraisal District Board of Directors who represent us, the taxpayer. Just everyday, hardworking folks who look out for the property owner. The citizen candidates we recommend you to support, of course, is Paul Jones is not here tonight, but we would like to get the votes to Mr. Dwayne Goulding. Our other two members, John Wood and Amy Lingo, of course, you know, they've been voted in with overwhelming majorities. I believe that you're going to find Mr. Woods, who's Mr. Goulding willingly volunteered to serve in this capacity to be highly qualified and able to provide excellent representation to the taxpaying citizens of Johnson County, while being sensitive to the needs and requirements of the taxing entities. I would like to assure you that the members of our group are not anti-tax zealots. We fully understand the support that's needed to collect tax dollars to support our services that cities, counties, and ISDs provide. We simply want taxation to be fairly applied and property values to be fairly assessed. Our goal is to ensure transparency to the property owner and the taxpayers of Johnson County. Entities that have supported our citizen candidates so far have been Johnson County's Commissioners Court, the cities of Alvarado, Burleson, Cleburne, Godley, Grandview, Joshua, Mansfield, Alvarado ISD, Joshua ISD, Grandview ISD, and Rio Vista ISD. The taxpayers of Johnson County are begging for your support, and that's why we are here. Vote for change. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hunley.
Mr. Hunley, Mr. Hunley,
Would you like a question?
I do.
Okay.
How many members are on this board?
There's 5.
It's 5 members, okay.
Were all of the members up for reelection this year?
Yes,
Okay.
whole new board.
All right, that's all of the yellow cards that I received. Is there anybody else that would like to speak to this item that did not give me a yellow card? Okay. All right, council, if you want to go ahead and just review here for a minute, and if you have any following questions and want to open up the discussion amongst yourselves. Again, like, this is like a numbers game. If you look at the numbers, we're looking to see where our 37 votes might have the most impact at this point to try to help this group of people to do what they're trying to do, which is be transparent and help us as taxpayers with our property tax values.
Mayor,
Yes.
of these names, are these the names that are going to be the candidates for the 5 positions?
So all of the candidates that you have on this sheet were candidates. Vance Castles has already been confirmed to be on the board, Amy Lingo, and John Wood. So of the 5 members, those 3 are already on the board. So right now, the rest of the entities, including us that are casting their votes, will help seed the final 2 spots.
And
We're
there's
gonna
no
help.
other candidates?
No,
that
this is
aren't on
it.
this
This
list?
is all of the candidates.
Okay.
So we can either give all of our 37 votes to one of the remaining candidates, or we can divide it up amongst more than one. But we only have 37. We don't have as much impact, I know, as some of the bigger ISDs and cities. So regardless of what we do here tonight, it's not going to put somebody on the board, unfortunately, but it'll just be another piece in the puzzle to help them achieve their goal.
So if a candidate gets 834, they're on the board?
Then they'll be on the board, yes, then they'll get confirmed. And there's
If-
from what I understand, there's 5,000 votes amongst all the counties and all the ISDs. Yeah, there's 5,000 that gets divided up amongst all of us. We have 37 of those 5,000. And these are all the votes that have already been distributed so far from all the meetings that have taken place.
So if 4 candidates get past the 834, and the 5th candidate doesn't get the 834,
That I don't know. That's above my pay grade, but these guys might know that.
okay, that was where I was going.
But see, they already have 2 new
That
on
doesn't
the board.
increase
You don't want
your
everyone
power.
new.
Okay.
Simply stated, because the vote pool is smaller than it was. So you have greater say.
So at this point, council, what we're looking at, if you look on your red line copy of your agenda, you're going to make a motion to approve adopting this resolution, affirming a casting of votes in the 2024-2025 election of the Board of Directors for the Central Appraisal District of Johnson County, Texas, and then include a name. You're going to input one of these names or multiple names, and then that's going to go before the council for a vote. So we're going to add somebody's name in there and make a motion.
And I'm guessing that Vance Castles was on the board previous?
He's an incumbent, yes,
Yeah, he's the incumbent.
as well as Mr. Beeson.
Are they the only 2 incumbents?
And Brenda Webb. Brenda Webb's an incumbent.
And Toby Ford.
And Toby Ford is another incumbent? Yes.
Mayor,
Yes.
on the resolution itself, and the same as the official ballot, you'll only put how many votes out of the 37. You're not going to put all the numbers that you
Yes.
have listed.
Yeah, I understand that. We're just gonna, whatever we divvy up our 37, put it toward whatever names we choose, either one name or multiple names, yeah. All right, council, would anybody like to make a motion?
You know, I appreciate you guys coming and visiting with us here tonight. But I also don't want a board that's full of new people. So I personally would make a motion to approve adopting resolution number 2023-435, affirming the casting of votes in the 2024-2025 election of the Board of Directors for the Central Appraisal District of Johnson County, Texas, and all 37 votes for Don Beeson Sr.
Second.
All right, council, we have a motion on the floor to approve adopting resolution number 435, affirming the casting of votes in the 2024-2025 election of the Board of Directors for the Central Appraisal District of Johnson County, Texas, and that was all 37 votes, correct, is what you wanted to do?
Yes.
Okay, for Don Beeson Sr. By Foster and a second by Bells. Any further discussion on this motion?
Just have a question. I know by just saying that you don't want all new people to be elected to a board, is it a requirement, like you have to have a certain amount of experienced board members who are supposed to work with the new board members? Because it seems like it's a requirement. You have just said that based on on your view, that you want to see some people who are incumbent and the new members to work together. So is it a requirement? I don't know if I'm clear.
No, this is my personal view. I'm just one vote.
And then I might ask, based on these numbers here, I'm looking at these numbers. So if you were to give, the motion is on the floor, 95 votes plus 37, that is putting Don Beeson Sr. In the range of 100 and something, 120.
132.
132.
Yeah.
So that's 132. And we have these other candidates like Brent Webb, we have Toby Ford, and these other members here. So on the way I'm seeing it, I've seen multiple years has given the 37 votes to members, card members. And I don't think it would be reasonable to give someone a vote that it's going to be hard for them to be able to get to the goal. They are not almost even a half of them. I know there are some candidates, there are some votes out there that he might get along the way. But that's just my opinion based on this, the number of votes that he has at the moment.
But the only committee person that's with their group they're wanting us to vote for is Dwayne Goulding. The other people on this list are incumbents, it looks like. Right?
Yes, and the reasoning is much closer to clinch the 837 votes. And he has talked to us and tried to show us what he's willing to do for the citizen, for the taxpayer. Everybody has spoken, I understand. But I'm just saying he's much closer to give that vote to somebody that is almost there, even though he's a new candidate. But he has also told us he has experience based on what he has been gathering out there, and even educated you a little bit about the current status of this board.
So our 37 votes are not going to skyrocket him to 834 any way you slice it. So there's a lot of other entities who have to place their votes. All I'm saying is I think Don Beeson is doing a fine job, my personal opinion. So, and these guys, no disrespect, fellas, but they can't change the appraisal rate. They can't change anything that really affects us. It just makes it more transparent, and they're going to do more education for us, which one of them on the board could do that. In fact, they could have brought a presentation tonight that would have been more transparent. So, I'm sorry, Mr. Goulding, you're shaking your head. Is that not correct?
If the majority of the board doesn't support an education program, one or two members can't do it by themselves. You understand how boards work. You guys vote, majority rules. Same way at the head.
Okay. But
Okay, any further discussion on the motion? Yeah, Ms. Gillett, we're not taking any questions from the audience at this time. I'm sorry. We already have a motion on the floor in a second. We're already into council discussion at this point. I only allowed Mr. Golding to speak to clarify what Mr. Foster was asking. All right, council, any further discussion on this motion? All right, we have a motion on the floor by Foster and a second by Bells to approve adopting resolution number 2023-435, affirming the casting of votes in the 2024-2025 election of the Board of Directors for the Central Appraisal District of Johnson County, Texas, for Don Beeson Sr. All in favor, raise your hand. Those opposed? Those abstain? Motion is carried. Just a second, I'm writing this down. Okay, thank you, everybody, for speaking. We appreciate y'all coming.
Thank you.
Okay, agenda item number 7B, discussion on updating and amending the city charter. Mr. Batla, were you going to speak to this?
Yes, good evening, Mayor and
If
Council.
you want to wait for just a minute, we'll go ahead and let them excuse themselves. Ms. Baggett, I would like you to please step outside. You are disturbing the meeting. Yes, Ms. Baggett, I would like you to please step outside. You are talking and disturbing my meeting. It's a disruption to me. Please step outside. Chief Kidd?
what was she doing?
She's putting sticky notes on her forehead, and she's also whispering, and she keeps holding up her white paper and talking to Stephen, and then talking to Debbie at the same time, and it's disrupting me. Okay,
I think that was unnecessary, Mayor.
I'm sorry?
I think that was unnecessary.
I'm sorry, for me it was. All right, let's continue. Agenda item number 7B, discussion on updating and amending the city charter. Mr. Batla?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I have been asked to look into the procedures for reviewing and updating the charter, so I created a little staff report for you, and I'll go ahead and read from that. The last update was November 4th of 2014. The procedures for doing this would be that council would pass a resolution appointing a charter review commission. That commission would review and bring back their recommendations to city council. The review commission, in conjunction with the city attorney, would put together proposed changes to the charter. We would then need to hold public hearings and town hall meetings regarding those changes for citizen input. We present the final changes to the charter to city council, and then city council would call for the election at the next election. So there would, to make the next election cycle, there would be a lot of work to do. So if this is a direction that y'all would like to go, we would need to start that process very soon. And this would be subject to implementation if passed through that election. So I am not the city attorney, can't give legal advice, but that's the way I understand it from discussions with him. So I can try to answer any of your questions on that, or open it up for y'all for discussion.
So how many people are we supposed to put on this commission? Is there a number?
I will find.
There was, I know we had a group, I know Gary was here, and I know he was on it. Weren't you on the last commission?
I'd do some research on that.
Okay.
was 13 on it in
13?
2014.
Okay, thank you, Gwen.
Is there a particular area that we're looking at changing, or where did this come from?
It's just been brought up to me several different times, so I put it on the agenda. Really just a comprehensive review. So again, this is up to y'all, so.
So there's no pending change to the charter, we're just talking about what happens when we want to change it.
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if you want to.
This is just a discussion item tonight.
You want looked at for upgrading or revision, so, or, other option is to not do it, so.
To have regulations, I guess, over social media and maybe that type things. I know there's a lot of federal laws and stuff that have gone into effect about that affect, they overrule whatever rules we have in the city. But would those type things need to be changed in the charter? Is that a plus for changing, or?
Those could certainly be looked at, but they would have to be weighted against, freedom of speech, et cetera. And that this commission would be working, hand in hand with city attorney to make sure any changes were in line with recent law or standing law.
And we would appoint these people?
Yes.
Because I really feel like it would need to be professional type people.
Oh, for updating the city charter, you would need a commission, a group of people to form a committee and work together on suggested changes to the city charter. And they would work with the city attorney to ensure those changes were valid and legal.
And I have a question.
Go ahead.
So
Go ahead.
You said that this has come to you multiple times, like the request has been presented to you multiple times. So is it from the council members or?
Yes, just general conversation. When I meet with council members to give updates, and it comes up about charter questions and questions on, charter updates and how and when. So it's come up enough to put it on the agenda for discussion to see if this is something you want to look at definitively or keep as it is. So I just wanted to get some direction from you all on it. So.
The charter's kind of vague on some things, and I think it need to be nailed down. I kind of was one of the people who kind of brought this to Brent's attention. I think that I don't want it to get, I want it to be like the Constitution, where it's a fluid document, but by the same token, I think we need to put some teeth in it on some items. So I was the one who was talking to Brent about it, and that's kind of the reason why we're here tonight talking about it.
What parts do you think are vague that you would like to change?
I don't recall right now, but I just know that there were some things that, one that comes to mind is when you make your mayor pro tem nomination, and then we don't get to go to council the next time, and the council pick, that is in the Constitution the way I read it, but yet it's not in the Constitution the way you read it, or the charter rather. So,
It's the way the attorney interprets it, yeah.
well, I'm just saying, let's take that out and let's put it in the verbiage so a citizen could read the charter and know which way we need to go. So that was my thought. And there's probably other things in there. I mean, it was done 9 years ago, be 10 by the time it gets voted, so.
So I haven't been here that long, but I have noticed through various council meetings that there are several things subject to interpretation of the attorney.
Yeah.
And those are things that we could address, again, more black and white to where where there's not that.
Yeah, I've noticed that as well. It's really, city charters in every city that has them, they're open to the interpretation of whatever city attorney is serving at that time. General law is a lot more concrete, and so there's more specifics where you have to follow it a certain way. and follow state law, and it's a little more ambiguous the way that we've done it. And that can be a decision that that commission could make too, whether we want to stay city charter or whether we want to go back to general law. That's also a consideration. Okay, council, do you have any other questions for Mr. Batlow?
So will you look into drafting that resolution?
Yes, I can bring a resolution to council for that.
Maybe after the first of the year, since the next meeting, we're going to try to keep it light.
Well, it shouldn't take long to approve or disapprove that.
We
I don't
would
know. I
have
don't know
to
what
take nominations and settle that also, so.
Okay. January meeting.
Okay. Okay, moving on, council. All right, agenda item number 7C, discussion on open records request pertaining to council recording devices. All right, council, Mr. Batlow didn't have anything to present on this, so I kind of wrote a small presentation just to kind of get us into this discussion item. Without getting too much of the legalese of verbiage from the state, you guys need to be aware as city officials, as public officials, that recordings that you make as a public official about the transaction of official business may be deemed public information and thus subject to open records request. So this includes video or audio recordings on any device, such as phones, camcorders, laptops, etc. So the city will notify you if they receive such a request, and then you will need to respond within 10 days, either by providing the information requested or asking for clarification. And just so you know, even though you may be asked for information, such as a video recording, this is not a free service. You can request payment for your expenses, such as a flash drive or CD that you may need to purchase, and your labor under specific guidelines established by the Attorney General's office. So in your response to the city, you would let them know of any expenses that you would incur in providing the request, and then provide them with an invoice, wait for the city to respond and/or the requester to respond and agree to the payment on the invoice that they want to proceed with the open records request, and then you would proceed with filling it. So that's really basically we received a packet, if you remember, from Ms. Mansell before she resigned that had some information about audio recordings. There were some sheets and stuff that were all given to us in our boxes, so I'm going off of that just to kind of give you like a brief presentation here. So before I open this item up for discussion, I need you to be aware that under the Texas Government Code 551.074, council may not deliberate any specific duty of a public official or an employee, or make a charge or complaint against a public official or an employee during an open meeting in regard to an open records request, unless the official or the employee agree to the discussion taking place during the open meeting. Otherwise, we will need to convene into closed session. So if you want to speak right now to the generalities of this, any questions that you might have pertaining to your duty, I guess, to provide information if you receive an open records request, we can do that now.
We are in violation now of the open records, and if that needs to be taken to closed session, then I request that now.
Okay,
I'll second that.
okay. All right, so council, if that's the case and you would like us to convene into closed session so that we can deliberate this at length, I need you to be aware that under Texas Government Code 551.045, it is an offense to participate in a closed meeting if a certified agenda or recording of the closed meeting is not being made. Therefore, I must inform you that we do not have a city secretary and that a certified agenda has not been prepared for this closed session on this discussion item to take place. So therefore, we will need to record it in order to comply with the law.
I wasn't necessarily speaking about now. We can make it next time.
No,
where
I
it can be on.
suggest-
No, let's do it legal.
I suggest that we
We've
go
got
ahead
some
and move
illegal
into it
things
now.
going on now, And we're not going to do this illegal. I asked for it for the next session in closed session.
Regardless of whether we do it now or we do it later, we either have to have a
Next
certified
session.
agenda prepared, or we have to record it under the law.
Well, prepare a certified agenda.
You do not want it to be recorded? Is that what your preference would be then?
Yeah.
It doesn't make any difference. I
We're
mean, we
doing-
still get to discuss the item, whether it's being recorded or whether a certified agenda is
We're
prepared.
doing an agenda now, and all the past meetings have all had been agendas.
Yeah, we've had a certified agenda. That's what I'm saying. We don't have one prepared tonight since we weren't prepared for a
So
closed
he's
meeting.
asking to do it on the December
Okay.
21st meeting,
Okay,
and I second that.
okay. You want to go ahead and move it?
I was with the understanding and that if whoever decides they want to record something that's going on in the city and it becomes public, belongs to the city, then it's subject to open records request. And when this is asked for, you need to provide it to the city, whatever, because it was your choice to video it
Yes.
or whatever. So,
That is what I said. So generally speaking, when we're talking generally and not to specifics, then yes, if a public official such as us records something, it may be subject to open records request. And yes, we will have to provide it if requested. All I'm saying,
Okay.
yes, so that is true.
but has it been provided?
Well, that's what I'm saying. We're not talking about any specific request. And if you are, then we're going to go into closed session either right now or at the next meeting to discuss a
Seems
specific.
like all of a sudden you have become our attorney, which I don't think is totally correct. So,
Okay, well, I'm sorry you feel that way, but I'm reading to you from the Texas Government Code. Okay, so we're going to go ahead
Wait.
and
Would you
postpone
re-
this discussion.
Would you read that government code again, please?
Is an offense to participate in a closed meeting? That one about the certified agenda?
Yeah.
Yeah, so. Let's see if I had the sheet with me. Okay, I wrote down what I wrote down, so I don't know if this is the exact verbiage from this, but yeah.
city secretary, exit review.
Okay, the first Texas Government Code that I cited was 551.074. Council may not deliberate about the specific duty. I'm just summarizing the thing. There was actually more in that Texas Code than what I'm saying. But we may not deliberate about any specific duty of a public official or an employee or make a charge or complaint against a public official or an employee during an open meeting in regard to an open records request unless the official or the employee agree to that discussion taking place. You have to have the employee's consent.
This is again Elisa's interpretation of what she read.
I can probably find it if you want me to take the time to look it up.
No. Why don't we
You
just
guys
put it
all
on the next
received,
agenda?
you
We
guys
have a
all received
long
this.
Agenda
This is what
tonight.
I'm looking at. This is what was in our boxes that we did.
Does that mean you're interrupting me and not letting me finish? Lisa, since it's already been suggested and seconded to put it on the next agenda, why don't we just do that?
Okay.
And finish our agenda
That's fine.
tonight?
Well, you were opening it back up for discussion, so I thought you wanted to continue. Okay, we're not taking any more discussion. We're going to move this agenda item to the next meeting. No, we're moving the item. We're not going to continue with the discussion. We're closing this agenda item down. Okay, please step forward, Ms. Gillen. Let me hear your question.
Mayor, council.
Evening.
You were going a while ago. 4 weeks ago, before I had surgery, I had put in an open records request for some records, and I understand that they're ready now. So I'm going to be paying about $150 for these records. Is that just for the copies, or is that for the labor for someone doing it, or does that money go to whoever the open records request is about?
The money goes to the city for whatever expenses the city is incurring in order to fill your open records request. So it could be labor, it could be the paper, it could be the time, yeah, if there's a recording device, it could be a flash drive, whatever they're putting it on for you.
Well,
It's
you had
however your
mentioned
request is
about
being asked.
labor and different things.
Yes.
And so I wanted to know whose labor, because,
It's the labor of whoever is fulfilling the request, but it's not going to them, it's going back to the city.
well, that's fine.
It's
Cities, cost, right?
Right.
Yes, that's our incurred costs, and I'll
The
mention,
cities.
for
incur
example,
costs.
Nathan has spent over 20 hours in the past couple of weeks working on just open records requests.
Well, they weren't all mine, but I'm glad to pay
Correct,
that for
correct.
mine.
I'm just saying that,
But I
that's
just
why
was
we,
trying to get
that's why we have
clarification
to
on
charge
what she
a
said.
rate, so.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's
And
fine.
I should be able to pick mine up tomorrow.
Thank you, Ms. Gillen. Okay, so council, on agenda 7C, we're going to then just push that. Are we pushing that to the meeting on the 21st, or are we going to push that to the meeting in January where we can have more time? Because that was the meeting we were going to keep light. Council? Some of us might not be here that day.
Next council.
Okay. Just be aware that my vacation is that day. I may not be present. So I'll let you know that.
We need to get this.
Okay, push revision to the next meeting. Okay. Moving on. Agenda item number 7D, discussion on social media postings by the mayor and council. All right, council, in your packets is a code of conduct that was provided to us for council members. I have read it, as I'm sure you have as well, and I just want to say thank you. This is the message that we want to send to the public and communicate to each other, that we will not tolerate slander, intimidation, bullying, or harassment amongst our members or against our members. That would not be moving the city forward in the direction that we want it to go, and it would not be productive. So whoever wrote this up, thank you. Unfortunately, we can't make council members tonight sign it, as it's non-binding and non-enforceable, because if we make them sign it, then it would only be used as a bullying tactic in and of itself for other individuals to decide it was violated, and then that would undermine its purpose. But the thought process is sound, so I look forward to hearing your thoughts and how we can all work together for the good of the city. Before I open this item up for discussion, be aware that under Texas Government Code 551.074, council may not make a charge or complaint against a public official unless the public official agrees to the discussion taking place in an open meeting. Otherwise, we will need to convene into closed session. So on this agenda item, you may only speak in generalities. Otherwise, I will need to poll the council to see who would like their social media posts discussed in an open meeting, or we will convene into closed.
Okay, Lisa, I would like to discuss yours. That
Okay.
you posted after last council meeting. You did not get.
You may
the
not
passport.
discuss my
Do not
post.
interrupt me.
You may not just, I'm interrupting you because you're trying to talk about my post, and I just informed you of the Texas Government Code.
Your post.
And I am not giving my permission for my social media
I
posts to
can
be
understand
discussed during
why
an open
not.
mee's.
I can understand why not.
Thank you.
Because you don't get, you
It is my
being
right under the law.
a lady mayor, there's ladies.
Ms. Beeson, again, you're in violation, you're out of order. I have just informed you that I am not giving consent for my social media posts to be discussed during this open meeting unless we convene into closed meeting.
Mr. Batlett, would you mind dialing up the attorney so we could get clarification on this issue tonight? Would you mind?
Because Lisa,
Call him.
your slander you're talking about, you talk.
Okay, I'm calling a recess. This meeting is in recess right now.
It's what?
We are in recess. I just called a recess. We're going to go and consult with the attorney.
What she posted last time. Called us racist, basically.
I believe he is in another council meeting tonight, right at this time, so.
All right, council, would you like to resume? Would you like to go into a closed session at this point, or would you like to postpone this agenda item until the next meeting?
Are you gonna be here next week or no, Lisa? I mean, the next session?
I'm sorry?
You're not gonna be here in 2 weeks, you said?
I might not be, yeah, that's my vacation.
What's the consequence of being in violation of 551.074?
Possibly a fine and jail time. I believe it's a misdemeanor.
And that's your interpretation again.
We're still in recess.
Yes, we're still in recess.
It's okay for her to call us racist on social media.
We do have our city secretary temp service watching the live stream.
Okay.
Although she's not a parliamentarian, she does have a lot of experience, so texting her as well. So. I don't have a legal opinion from the attorney. We have a temp service, yes.
What is that document called?
Okay, I'll just make mention our audio is still live. So what I would suggest, we have a lot of items here. I would highly suggest we have city attorney at the next meeting to answer some of these legal questions. Okay, yes, that's what.
Is that right there?
Right. I'm looking it up right now. What does it say that you can't do it if the person doesn't agree? Where does it say that you can't have it?
So we can't discuss this in recess.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
It's
it
not required to.
does not require in an open meeting
Can't
to hear
remember.
complaints. So that means if you're trying to file a complaint or a charge, unless that subject of that person, that officer or employee, requested to be in an open meeting, then it has to be in a closed meeting.
Subsection A does not apply if the officer or employee who's the subject of hearing requests a public.
Exactly. So that, it's mandating it as a closed. It's mandating that it has to be, personnel matters have to be done in closed meeting unless the subject asks for it to be done in an open meeting. That's what I'm saying. It's actually, personnel matters is why we always go into closed. When we're talking about any city staff or employee, we always go into closed. Remember when James Bell's asked to have me talk about his violation in open, he was making that choice to request it in open. Otherwise, we were gonna have to go into closed. We're mandated to go into closed.
No,
Because it's a personnel matter. There's certain things you have to go into closed for. So,
we're an officer. We're an officer.
that's why I stopped Ms. Bell from speaking at the beginning of the meeting, because she would be in violation of that. If she's gonna talk about something that we did in closed that's privileged and bring it open, she can only do that if the employee wanted it discussed in open. Otherwise, we're violating Ms. Mansell's rights. She'd be liable for the city could be sued. We're still in recess. Be right back.
So, personnel matters, you have to do in closed session, okay? So, this chapter does not require a government body to conduct an open meeting. Yes? Yeah. Well, we're gonna get the attorney here. Well, she posted something in social media. I think that the rules are off when it comes to something like that. I don't think this. Oh, I guarantee it won't. Unless she gets her people on the council. Wait.
All the time for our recess, we'll get the road down. All right, 7:34 PM, we're going to go ahead and resume into open meeting. Council, we were still under agenda item number 7D, discussion on social media postings by the mayor and council. This time I'm going to request that we postpone this agenda item unless you would like to convene into closed session, that we postpone this agenda item until a subsequent meeting. Any objection?
We'll put it on the next agenda.
Okay. Again, when you are talking about a personnel matter, it is supposed to go into closed session unless the subject of the deliberation or discussion
You have said
requests
that
for it
about
to be
3
in a
times.
public hearing.
I think we understand.
Just making sure that we all understand. That's
I
why we're
think we
postponing this
do,
agenda
ma'am.
item.
I think we do, Lisa.
Thank you, ma'am.
And is
Okay.
it possible for our attorney to be here the next time, the next meeting?
We can find out.
I can't
Probably.
speak for, I doubt he's available. He's available on the 4th Thursday, but
That would be
I will
Christmas.
find out.
Yeah, that might be the week
Yeah.
after. Okay, agenda item number 7F, discussion and consider approval, discussion 7E, discussion on the city attorney attendance at council meetings on the 4th Thursday.
Okay, good evening, Mayor and Council. I'll touch on a little bit of a applicable subject. So the attorney, we looked into changing our council dates. He is not available, our current city attorney is not available the first, second, or third Thursdays. He has confirmed availability for the 4th Thursday. Keep in mind his current rate is $150 an hour. In case there's any questions on our budget ability, I added a little bit of a financial impact statement in the staff report. Our current budget is $55,000, and we do have the funding to pay for at least one council meeting per month without too many issues to have an attorney here. Another thing we could do is attempt to put some of the more weighty items, executive session items, et cetera, on that 4th Thursday, should council choose to change our dates to the 2nd and 4th Thursday, excuse me. So that's for consideration. Also, did a little bit of research. The law firm TOS out of Fort Worth, that's the one I'm familiar with, working with in a couple different cities. I spoke to them several times. Their rates are $215 to $250 an hour. As of the deadline of the staff report, they had not confirmed availability. I heard today at about 1 o'clock that they are not available for new clients. They're too busy. So the other option would be to explore a different law firm. It would be roughly the same rate, $215 to $250 an hour. 150. We could. It would pretty much max our budget out.
Well, that's only $2,400 more dollars a year.
Yeah.
That's why
If you do 2 meetings a month.
That's just with the meetings, but if we use them for all of our other items, we would rack that up pretty quick, yeah. So that's just for your consideration. So I kind of, this is just a discussion. So I would like to get some kind of direction regarding if you would like to pursue the attorney on the 4th Thursday by changing council meetings or pursue a different law firm. Just like to open that up for y'all's discussion.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Batla? This is really just a discussion item, not a direction to staff or any action. So if we did switch and the discussion was on the 2nd and the 4th so that the attorney could be present on the 4th, that would always interfere with Thanksgiving, correct? Because isn't the Thanksgiving always the 4th Thursday of the month?
Yes.
So we'd always have to make sure, that's why we've always done the first meeting and the third meeting. And then the 4th one always gets close to Christmas, where people are traveling and council's not always available to attend meetings. and then what we discussed.
something that, so our attorney is available in here at least one meeting a month, because yeah, it's just,
Either that, or we
have
can always arrange special meetings like we discussed before. When we have and when we have specific items that we want to discuss where we need the attorney, we can always call the special meetings. That's what we were saying we would do before, by keeping the meetings on the same.
Yeah, Mayor, I also think it would be reasonable if we have some items that we think that we might need some legal counsel. It won't be bad to consolidate those items and put them in one meeting, even though it might take 5 hours, but to go through them. Because I understand the city attorney reviews our, agendas anyway. We have to run it through him before even we are able to, present them before the public. So I think having a special meeting, consolidating some of the contentions, some of the kind of, I can say, the things that are on kind of a gray area that we might not be able to make a decision, we can consolidate those ones, call a special meeting, and then let him be present without changing the council meeting dates, because I think it might also affect the city employees, especially the secretary, city manager. It does change the schedule a little bit. And some of us who normally work the schedule, it does kind of change too. So that's just my opinion or recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Fuba. Anybody else want to add to this discussion before we move on?
Well, a
All right.
special meeting would be much less expensive than retaining these other attorneys. So let's just see when his next availability is, and that'll be 72 hours away. Just call a special meeting. Let's get this squared away.
Okay, we can put that under future requests, future items on the agenda.
Well, no,
then.
let's do it now because
you
it takes
know,
four of
unless
us.
we-
It takes 4 of us to do that.
Yes.
So I say we need to do it. I make a motion, we have a special meeting as soon as Mr. Chesser can make it happen.
sec-
Okay, this is
You know,
just a discussion item, not a motion item, but
Well, no, I think for a special meeting, that if 4 of us
make
say we
that
want it,
request. Yeah,
if 4 of us say we want it, then we can get it.
that's what I'm saying, under the future
You
items
can-
for
We
agenda.
can put that, yeah, correct.
Under request
That on
for
10.
You
future
can-
items.
Under the future items or agenda, you can make that request. 4 of you can. Does that make sense?
Why can't we do it now?
I'm just following the agenda. It says discussion. It's just a discussion only. It's not direction.
Okay, so I'm giving Mr. Batla direction to check
I
with
know,
Mr. Yeah,
but it doesn't say give direction to staff on here. So at this point, so I'm just saying to follow what we've been doing in the past, we save that for the end when we do future items for the
violation of
discussion.
Open records, but yet,
Request for future items on the agenda.
okay, we'll wait. Don't let me forget that.
Okay, moving on, agenda item number 7F, discuss and consider approval of a street rehabilitation fund policy.
Okay, if you will turn to your books, we created a draft policy, and I'm sure you've had time to look it over. We tabled this last time due to the lack of this policy, so this is a draft. A couple things I will point out. Item number 1, under fund structure, keep in mind that if we establish this street rehabilitation fund, it will be a restricted fund. And so, let me see, and then when you look under item 2, number 2, prioritization of projects. This is something I wanted to point out, and I'll read this. The city of Keene has spent a considerable amount of time and resources to develop a comprehensive capital improvement plan that outlines priority areas for street rehabilitation. City staff and city council shall use this plan to guide the allocation of funds to specific projects. And the reason I put that in there is because we do have wards. And so to kind of help avoid, avoid any ward issues, I would highly suggest that we have this wording in here that lets us kind of prioritize the things that will follow our capital improvement plan rather than special projects, jumping from one special project to another. So, again, y'all are the policymakers, but I wanted to point that out. So are there any questions I can answer on this? The finance director has identified an initial sum of $75,000. It's currently 6.079% of the pooled cash account. And we do have some discussion on item H regarding some of the pricing that it would cost to fix some streets. But as I pointed out in my last presentation, we've got to attack the streets from all angles, and this is one angle of many. And even with this policy, just this policy, it would take 3 or 4 years to fix one street. So we need, again, we need to attack it from all sides. So this just gives us a piggy bank and part of a playbook towards our street problem. And I think you said it best, eat an elephant one bite at a time, and we've got to start. So thank you.
So essentially, the reason why we're doing this and coming up with this fund policy for the streets is not necessarily because we think we're going to be able to save up enough money to fix a street, because we know that a street can cost millions of dollars when you start fixing the infrastructure and then you start repaving the street. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to start a fund that's going to build something up that's going to give our creditors and our lenders and the people that do our bonds and stuff information that says that we're credit worthy in order to apply for a bond, and we're going to be able to meet that debt fee that we need to put that debt interest into an account to show that we can meet the interest of our obligations. Is that correct? Charles, I know, can probably explain it better than I am, but essentially we're trying to save up money so we look credit worthy, so then we can maybe take out some money to do a road, like a bond.
So I'll defer that one to Charles, but while he's coming up, this is one piece of the puzzle here. We have our regular operational maintenance, then we have this, and we have different ways we can fund street repair projects. And if we attack it from all those different ways, we could address a project once every couple of years.
Okay.
A Fairview size project, which is one of our discussion items, and
Dancing to your question, Mayor and Council, in the last conference that I had in Fort Worth, I spoke to Jim Sarbanes, who is the main principal of Hilltop Securities, and we touched on this subject. It's a separate bond issue. It has no impact to the bond that we have currently, which is over several millions of dollars, of course. There's also a cap for small cities of our size, about $10 million. That's why we kind of staved off any issuance of bonds in the next couple years because of our size, of course. Cities that's a little larger, like Cleveland and Burleson, they have more of an impact, financial impact, than we do. Of course, they can go out for bond issue because they have the financials for it. We don't. He gave us harsh reality numbers that we must meet, which we cannot at this time. We don't have the rooftops, we don't have the retail and commercial. So all of those are impacted. He kind of put it out there, it's good to start somewhere. But the main thing is they did a comprehensive study a few years back. We had Jacob Martin representative come up here to indicate those millions and millions of dollars. I think one of them was close to 18 million, so that we can start somewhere. We cannot go out for bond for that amount also, so keep that in mind. So with my thought process and with the thinking of what we just talked about in a couple of weeks ago, my suggestion is to financially build up this street rehab fund, but we have to do one or two things. We have to keep property tax either the same or raise it up. We can't go down if you want to have this within the next 3 to 5 years. If you cut property taxes, your chances of reaching your goal in mind in 5 years won't happen. So that's the numbers he kind of gave to me. Any questions?
Anybody have questions for Mr. Williams?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you for doing this policy, Mr. Batley. I appreciate it. I know it took some time to put together.
I'll make a motion to approve the street rehabilitation fund policy.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor to approve the street rehabilitation fund policy by Foster and a second by Gutwa. Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor, raise your hand. It's unanimous. Motion is carried. Agenda item number 7G. Discuss and give direction regarding the remaining funds for the sidewalk project.
Evening, Mayor, Council. As you remember, $230,000 was set aside from the bond proceeds to have some sidewalks installed on the city near Eastern by the ISD. The initial project, we had a balance of $78,461.50. So since then, we did add 2 more sections for a total of about $33,000. It leaves us a balance of $45,381.50. I know it's kind of hard to see here, but they should be in there. But this first map, unless they're in different order, I think that the orange line shows where we went up 4th Street to Spruce from the school, and then we went down Eastern to Ash, or actually to 1st Street, was the first section that we did in the original bid. Then on the next section, we added 2 more sections, which took us from 3rd Street, now we're at 1st Street. So currently at 1st Street, that's about as far as we can go right now, because there is the ditch, and if anybody's ever driven down Eastern Street, when we have heavy rains, there's like 3 feet of water running through that ditch. So there would need to be a bridge put across that creek on that side of the street. So it's gonna take some engineering to make sure it's done right and safely. Plus there's a sewer line, a water line that runs down that creek as well. I'm not sure how deep they are. So it would take some work. So basically what we're looking at is where do we go next? So I mean, we originally talked about continuing this all the way to Eliza Carver Park, like on this next map, going up Pecan Street, up to Fairview, and all the way over to the park. I did get a quote to do that for about $450,000, and that's just a rough quote. Mainly just by the linear footage, how many ramps there's gonna need to be at those corners and intersections like that. There's many challenges about going this way, especially once you get past KASD. You get to those duplexes that are just past that, and there's about an 8-foot difference between the street and the parking lot for those duplexes. So it would be add a considerable amount of cost to dig that out. Is there any utilities in the way? Put up a 4 or 5 foot retaining wall. Once you go down Fairview, then we run into other issues as well. You get to where Oliver Technologies is now, and again, there's a pretty big dropout, about a 5-foot drop off from the street to where their building is. So there's a lot of issues about doing this, and $45,000 is not gonna get us very far. We've also talked to B-Board that has looked into that about helping fund some of that, going from maybe Eliza Carver Park over to the duck pond, and that's something we're looking at as well. So it's kind of like, do we want to go a different direction right now? I'd hate to see us continually crossing the street. We got a sidewalk here. Oh, no, we can't do it there. Let's go across the street and let's go down. Oh, let's go back over here. I mean, we want our kids to be safe, obviously, but there's a lot of challenges with trying to do sidewalks all the way down. Do we try to go all the way down to Eastern to where Wells Court Apartments are first? Or do we start going up 4th Street towards South College? A lot of different options. I would say right now, because we're gonna have to do some engineering to go across that 1st Street bridge, we either take that 45,000, spend a portion of it towards our engineers, even if it's only $5,000 to go, what's it gonna cost to build us a bridge to go there? And then we might be able to make it to Pecan Street with the remaining funds. But it's gonna take a little while.
Do we have the same contractor that did this street up here, Oakdale, what is it, Concrete Street? Same engineer?
Shady Oak?
ADL, same.
It's the same firm, yes. It's the same engineering firm, yes. Or do we, take the 45,000 and maybe we can go up 4th Street a little bit towards Fairview and stay on that same side of the street where we cross Spruce. We could probably make it up to Fairview. We'd have to get some estimates, but there's not a lot of challenges there. It's fairly flat. There may be a utility pole, but we may have enough room in between a fence to make that work. So we're just kind of looking at different options now. And then kind of for the future too, is how do we want to attack this similar to the street project?
How do you see us entering the park? At least at Carver Park.
Going straight down Fairview and crossing Pioneer, have a crosswalk right there, Pioneer. B-Board has talked about maybe connecting the sidewalk that goes in front of the duck pond. Collicott Park, is that what it's called?
Collicott, yeah.
I think. There's some issues there. They got to cross Old Betsy, that would be one. There's several deep ditches. So again, we're talking about bridges or things of that nature that might work. So it would be nice to eventually come up with a plan for that. And I've been kind of working on that among other things, kind of like Nathan.
Since we
Mr.
have
Schramm, would you like
sidewalks
to speak?
to where we need the bridge now, wouldn't it be better just to go ahead and get that engineered and see what we're gonna need to build a bridge across that?
Yeah, we definitely need one. It's just, what's the cost going to be?
All right, Mr. Schramm, go ahead, and Don, if you'll let him talk.
West Schramm, 1002 West 4th Street. So we're planning on doing streets. When we do streets, we're going to be tearing out whatever curbs are there and probably whatever sidewalks would be next to them in order to do the streets correctly. So we need to take into consideration what streets, and not to slow the whole project down, but what streets are going to be primary to do first, and not put the sidewalks there until the streets are actually done, and put the sidewalks in when the streets are done.
Thank you.
Mayor, I have a question. I know we have some, in the last sidewalk, I know some of the sidewalks that we are working on, we did apply for grants. Is that correct?
The school actually applied for a Safe Routes to School grant.
So as a city, do we have an option to apply for sidewalks kind of project
Not at this
grant?
time. I believe the school district has to apply for those.
So are they planning to apply? Is it a yearly or there's a limit?
I don't have an answer for that, but I can check.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
What was the original plan? Why did you stop on 4th Street where you did?
That's what we had the $230,000. That's what our engineers kind of estimated it may cost for that. So we said, okay, that's all we're doing. That's when we went out for bids. Well, there were some bids that were over $270,000 to do that project, but we went with the lowest bidder, best deal, and we had some money left over. So that's why we stopped there, because that's all the project was bid for.
Well, Fairview has come up as a street that, and sometime in the future that we will redo. You mentioned going forth to Fairview, which I think is a good idea, but we'd have to see what everybody else thinks.
Yeah, just, it'll get us a little bit more with what little money we have, at least up to Fairview. Yes, Fairview is from 4th Street down to, at this point, 1st Street is what we applied for that current grant on the streets that we're so far looking pretty good in the running for, going down Fairview that way.
So is our goal to connect the schools and then connect them to the park, Lisa Carver Park?
Our goal is to have a sidewalk in front of every house,
Okay.
but
Because I was
how do we
thinking
get there
originally that we were
first?
going to make it go down Eastern, and then we were going to make it come up Pecan, and then to Fairview, and then straight to the park at that point at
Right,
Fairview.
I mean.
Not
because
all the
there
way
are-
down
there
Fairview
are-
from 4th Street.
There are a lot of people that do walk that way.
That would
They go
connect,
to
and
the
that way it
park.
would connect it with Keene Adventist Elementary School, and then kind of come up.
So once we get further down Fairview, though, we have those other issues that, once you get past Oakdale, there's no sidewalk, there's no
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
curb
I
and
know,
gutter,
it's
it's
really
all
tight
open
there.
ditch. So it's like, all right, where do you put the sidewalk?
Yeah,
You only have about 2 feet on the north side, unless we can get an easement or something from Mr. Dyke that owns all that land, and make it bigger, put curb and gutter in there, and make a sidewalk go all the way across.
Don, do you have a feel for which road, Eastern or 4th, has more student traffic?
I haven't been over there lately. There are a lot of kids that walk down Eastern. There's a lot that come down Fairview and turn and go down 4th Street as well. Maybe somebody else has some. Chief, where the majority of the kids walk from? They come down Fairview. Some go down 1st Street and they cut across Spruce and they go down Ash. There's a lot of different ways for them to go.
I know with Wells Court being on Eastern, there's a lot of traffic on Eastern. I've worked on houses on that area.
Right,
I haven't been on 4th Street much during that time.
yeah. I've seen quite a few kids walk. Some of them walk down Fairview. They might turn down 3rd, they might turn down 1st and go that way and then come down Eastern or Ash or Spruce.
Is it unconsiderable to skip the bridge and go from 1st to Pecan and just simply skip the bridge?
We could do that. We could look at that.
Because what's more important, 50 feet of sidewalk in a bridge or 500 or 600 feet on the road?
Then we run into that issue of, yeah, they got a sidewalk here. There's no more sidewalk. They go back out on the street again. I mean, I understand what you're saying because you're narrowing that area that they may be walking in the street. So, I mean, that's an option as well.
How far up 4th Street do you think we could go?
We could probably make it to Fairview. So you have, 1, 2, 3, 4 houses, and you have Gale. I think that's Gale. And then another 4 houses, and you're pretty much at Fairview, I believe.
The thing about 4th Street is, in the morning, you're looking into the sun when you drive down that street. And if the kids are in the road, which sometimes they are, that becomes more of a health danger than, I think, Fairview or Eastern, so.
There's a bunch of people that park on 4th Street too, in front of those little duplexes and stuff that are into the street. It makes the kids have to walk into the middle of the street to go around them.
Don, it looks like it's about 800 feet from Spruce to Fairview on Google Earth.
Mm-hmm. And I want to say we did 400 plus feet, I believe, 2 sections, a couple hundred feet each for that last $30,000. So we could probably make it a good way to Fairview.
624 feet from 1st to Pecan.
So it kind of depends. on different yards. Some of the, as you go down, a little farther down Eastern than we have on the one side of the road, there's a lot of places there is no curb and gutter, or there's hills. And on the north side of the road, you got the same thing. There's a bar ditch and there's trees. So, but again, we don't want the kids walking down the street having to cross and then go down and then having to cross.
I think somebody wanted to speak. Did you, Mr. Smith? Okay.
Troy Smith, 310 Woodlawn. Just wanted a friendly reminder that we do have two schools right on 4th Street, so there is double traffic going both ways. There's kids walking both directions in that morning and afternoon going to and from either one of those schools, and I see that because I drive that to drop off my kids. But I do know there's about 25% of the students that come from 4th Street and from the west side of Old Betsy that do travel through that roadway. So I know there's more traffic on Eastern, but as a safety for eyes, for your eyes in the mornings and traffic, I do think 4th Street is the better option. But that ultimately helps two schools in that pathway right there to be able to get more sidewalk on 4th.
Thank you.
Thanks, Troy.
Well, what we can do is we can get some rough prices on what it would go, see how far we can go. I can talk to our engineers. They've kind of looked at this, but I didn't want to spend any money right on it just yet. We have several other projects they're working on as well, as far as engineering it. So we can get some rough quotes, just take the basics, what it is per linear foot for a sidewalk, and kind of get an idea of how far we can go that way. And we can kind of bring that back to you.
I think we're looking at 3 options. Rough idea of a bridge. Skip the bridge first to Pecan, or Ash to Fairview. Those are the 3.
Okay. Pretty much consensus?
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks, Don.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, agenda item number 7H, discussion on issues with the current state of 4th Street from FM 2280 to Mockingbird Street.
Evening, Mayor and Council. So this kind of ties back into our discussion a little bit on the Street Rehabilitation Fund policy. On last council session, I was asked to put this on the agenda for discussion. So a little bit of history on this. We've received a community development block grant to help reconstruct Fairview Street. And that is approximately about 1,500, 1,600 feet of street. 1,600 at a cost of $550,000. Now, this is a 10% matching grant that will take place towards the end of this fiscal year and into next fiscal year, so that those funds will be split so that we don't get hit by that in one fiscal year. So I went to the kickoff meeting at the COG about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and this is just now starting to roll out. So more to come on that update. But specifically regarding 4th Street from FM 2280 to Mockingbird, I used this project as a comparison because we already had the estimates and everything else. So if you look at the comparison, they're pretty close in scope. So I would estimate that we do have a clay pipe under there that we would have to replace if we're going to rip up the streets anyway. So we're looking at least $550,000 to redo 4th Street from FM 2280 to Mockingbird. So to put the previous item kind of in perspective with the rehabilitation fund, we established that, again, it depends on how things fall at the end of the fiscal year and efficiencies and savings, and if we're able to, again, attack this from all the different directions that we can, it would take several years just to do, get enough money to do one project like this. But again, we have to start somewhere. So another option, we met with our city engineering firm today, and there is a Texas Water Development Board grant, another grant I'm going to pursue. And so, you know, we'll pursue all the grants we can. And there's one coming open pretty soon. I would like to pursue that. So I'm going to open it up for discussion. This was asked to be on the agenda, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Well, I asked for this on the agenda.
Go ahead.
Okay. And you've kind of been keeping me up to speed with this, and you've told me about some things that you're working on, so you've kind of brought us all up to speed. I'm pretty serious about 4th Street, and I know Councilman Easley mentioned Santa Fe. It's as in rough shape as any. I don't know what the traffic count between the two would be, but maybe at some point we could get a traffic count and try to determine where we start trying to move forward with this.
Again, to go with Santa Fe, I've been over there several times myself. I've talked to Gary when he was the mayor at the time. And he said that wasn't even nowhere in the budget. He said, it's not even to look at. And it's sad. I even told him I thought it was very sad. But we'll never have that much money to fix that one street. We could do another big street. And I know if I live over there, I'd be up every day complaining to you. I mean, it's a roller coaster. Big old driveways, you back out and you go into, not me, but I mean, maybe we need to look in to see how we could do some of it that needs patches here, but I don't see us ever doing that street the way we need to. Not from my experience of road work and stuff like that. I just don't see it happening.
Well, with some of the funding mechanisms, what I would suggest for council is let me get the piggy bank there, and then we come back for, and you know, again, kind of referring to our policy, we kind of want to stick to our capital improvement plan, but I believe those are high priority identified areas in the capital improvement plan.
But I do agree with Chucky, what he's saying about it, but I'm just saying what Gary told me personally, and many times I've been over there, and I was running for council. I know I had people that voted for me over there, and I feel sorry for them because we can't do it. But I think we could get over there and do a little bit patching the driveways where people could get out of their driveway. That's for sure.
I'll echo that, Ray. It's only about 400 feet that is miserable to drive on. The rest of it is bad, but there's 400 feet that's just miserable.
So I am optimistic. You know, we have a lot of developments coming in, and interest rates are high, so I don't know how fast the rooftops will come in. You know, that's the big question. But as those rooftops do come in, we will have more and more capacity to address some of these issues. So,
Well, I have a question here.
yeah.
This one might be general, but it does also address this item that we are talking about. So based on these projects, I know, yes, it does come up most of the time when we are talking to residents here. 4th Street, it's number one kind of item on people's minds, especially those who drive on that street. It's because those who normally take kids to school. As a city, we have a project that we did under Shady Oak. And we keep going back, trying to fix and try to fix. And I know some of the residents, sometimes they get frustrated. And how can we ensure that this 4th Street, because it has been coming up more than once, how can we ensure that even though we normally give the lowest bidders for the project, that we can't repeat the same mistake that that we are trying to fix at Shady Oak?
Yes, thank you for the question. We would definitely send that through engineering and have on-site inspections of that project as well. So, make sure everything's up to spec. So, part of the problem on 4th Street, I understand, is not the surface, it's the subsurface road base that's been eroding. And so they would have to tear all of that out and put the proper amount of base and compaction and everything else with that project. So
When we're doing that, we are gonna put new pipes and sewer,
yes,
correct?
yes, that's another expense. To me, it doesn't make sense to rip up the road, and we're close to an old clay pipe that needs to be replaced anyway. So we would need to replace that while we have that road up.
Well, if we do a new road,
Yeah.
we don't need to be spending that much money and then not.
Yeah.
I mean, because all we're doing is digging ourselves a hole. What we gonna do?
Yeah. I hope we can get a grant for this project. I do think we are in a pretty good spot to be competitive qualifying for that. So.
Any other questions for Mr. Batla? Okay, moving on, agenda item number 7I. Consider approval awarding a contract to Wallace Electric for the purchase of a generator, electrical upgrades, and SCADA upgrades.
Hello again, Mayor and Council. So recent changes in TCQ and EPA laws require us to have backup power available for our water and wastewater plants. City Council approved the use of the ARPA funds for generator improvements and SCADA upgrades at these locations. Our engineers designed these upgrades. We received 5 bids for this project. Combined bid totals, the base bid was to do all the electrical work, and then the add alternative bid was to do the SCADA system. So they range from $795,746 to $1,676,000. So these upgrades will bring us in compliance with recent changes from the emergency response plans adopted by the federal and state level. With using the ARPA funds to entirely fund this project, right now it's not going to impact our current budget. So thank you for doing that. So our staff and our engineers recommend awarding the contract to Wallace Controls and Electric, Inc. for the generator improvements and the SCADA upgrades. As you can see, there's a bid tab sheet there. It shows you what the bids were. If you take their 2 bids, the base bid and the add alternative, which is the SCADA, put them together, they were the lowest bidder. We've worked with Wallace Controls for about 4 years now. They've been working on our SCADA system. That's kind of why we wanted nobody else to do the SCADA portion of it, because they're familiar with it already.
Don, help out a new member. What is SCADA?
Supervisory controls and data something. Basically, it's an automated system that runs our entire water and sewer system. It monitors it. We can remotely log on to it. It sends us alarms when things aren't the way they're supposed to be.
Is the water meter reading part of that?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Supervisory control and data acquisition.
I was close. So it's basically, it runs itself. We check it every day to make sure it's doing what it's supposed to. We check the levels. It tells, when a tank gets down to a certain level, it automatically has a sensor that says, hey, I need more water in here. I turn the well on and starts pumping water in the well. Once the towers get to a certain point, it turns on the booster pumps and says, hey, let's take water out of this tank and put it into the tower. So, and that's kind of the basics of it. But at this point, none of our sewer lift stations are on that. If we have a failure at one of our lift stations, somebody has to be driving by and go, hey, look, that red light's on. Poo's running down the river. So that's what a lot of these upgrades are as well. Not only just getting us in case we have a natural disaster and we have no power for 4 days. We need to be able to move the poo and.
So does this Wallace Control do the monitoring of the sewer pumps?
They're going to be installing all of it. We monitor it ourselves.
Right, but this is the installation of those sewer pump monitors.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah,
and then a
so-
generator for some other place.
Right. Any questions?
How long have we been needing them generators for now?
Forever?
This is the first time it's been brought up?
No, I mean, it's the first time I've come to you with, hey, I need a $1.8 million.
Okay, no, I was just asking. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And there is a recommendation letter from our engineering firm in there as well.
Okay, question.
Council, you have any questions for Mr. Barton, or you want to make a motion?
Do the ARPA funds have to be spent by a certain date or just allocated? Because it looks like it's going to take them about a year to do this project. Will we get it done in time?
I believe, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
they have to be allocated by, I think it's October of 2024,
Yeah, next year, it's coming right
which
up,
this basically is allocating those funds for that.
or we're going to lose it, the money.
So I think we have roughly $1.2 million left around there.
And, okay,
And we've identified those different projects.
Right.
we've got other
Those other sewer projects, the water line extension now out to 317.
Okay, this is just a general question, yeah. I know it's a system, and there's always a cost that is attached to any system. So on average, how much is it going to cost the city for maintaining this system to make sure that it doesn't break down like other items that we have always run into issue?
Well, our SCADA systems they were put in a long time ago. We've been doing little upgrades here and there. Like I mentioned before, our lift stations, one lift station behind Funtown RV is the only one we can see what's going on at the lift station, but we can't control it remotely. We still have to drive out there, turn it on, turn it off, do whatever. It'll give us an alarm, and we can look and go, hey, it's overflowing, or hey, that pump's not working, or something of that nature. So cost-wise, it's not much more than what we do now. They're electrical parts. They do fail. It's switches, diodes, relays, fuses. There's not really any pumps or motors, they're not big ticket items. You may have the actual CPU that's in each one of those cabinets that's at each pump house or well site or lift station. That might be $1,500. They may go out occasionally every couple of years. And most of it's just little relays and switches and things of that. As far as the SCADA system goes, the electrical upgrades, some of our electrical systems, especially at South College well site, is pretty old. And every winter and every summer, we have issues with when the two wells are running, the booster pumps are running, everybody in that neighborhood has their heaters going or their ACs going. Our wells go into overload or underload protection. So these electrical upgrades will help with that as well, because some of that wiring has been in the ground for 50, 60 years underground, and it's old and it starts to decay. So if that helps answer your question. So-
Yes, it was just about the cost of running it.
Right. There shouldn't be much more because they're not physical pumps and motors. And the one generator that we're gonna get is gonna be on a trailer, so if we do have half the town go out, we can move it around, and this will give us the capability to plug into it, disconnect from the power supply of the city or the providers, run that generator for a couple hours, and go, okay, now we need to go over here and do that same thing. Eventually, we'd like to get a couple of permanent generators, but, you know, you're talking $300,000-$400,000 for one of those.
Yeah, I was just going to say, there's a pretty good emergency management application for that.
Yes.
For that as well.
So we've dwelled on this several times. We've given direction on it several times. Our city staff is recommending this. Jacob Martin is strongly recommending this. I'd like to make the motion, if I may. Make the motion to approve awarding a contract to Wallace Electric for the purchase of a generator, electrical upgrades, and SCADA upgrades.
Second.
We We have a motion on the floor to approve awarding a contract to Wallace Electric for the purchase of a generator, electrical upgrades, and SCADA upgrades by Bells, seconded by Easley. Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor, raise your hand. It's unanimous. Motion is carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 8, we do not have any executive sessions scheduled at this time, so we can go ahead and omit agenda item number 8. Agenda item number 9 is reconvening into open session after an executive. So we can move on to agenda item number 10, requests for future items on the agenda. All right, council, did you have something you wanted to add, or you wanted to request a special meeting? Okay. And this is a special meeting to discuss the 2 items on this agenda that we skipped, correct? That would be agenda item number 7C and agenda item number 7D. I'm going to poll the council since we're supposed to have 4 requests for a special meeting. So Ms. Beeson, would you like a special meeting to request to discuss those 2 items?
The ones,
We're requesting future items on the agenda, and under our city charter, 4 council are supposed to request a special meeting to take place, or the mayor.
yes, I'll agree.
Okay, so Gwen Beeson is yes. Mr. Easley?
Yes.
Mr. Foster?
Just take a vote.
Mr. Johnson?
Are you, gonna be here next meeting for all these?
I think he's going to find out when. I think they want the attorney present, so we just have to find out when it will be scheduled. So it might not be,
Only reason I'm asking, because I think you should be here for all the stuff they want.
okay. I'll just have to let you know. Yeah, I haven't firmed up my plans yet for my Christmas vacation, but I'll let you know.
I'll do the best, but I'm just asking,
Okay,
because I figure if you's here, you'll know more about what they're asking you to.
okay. At this time, we have 3 council that have requested a special meeting with the city attorney. Mr. Gutwell?
Okay, and then we'll decide the date after this.
We're not going to set a date. I think he's just going to let us know
Okay,
when it can be scheduled, and then we'll just call it, and then the city secretary, the interim service, will just post it and let council know. We can have the city manager let us know to make sure y'all are available to attend. Before he sets it, make sure you're going to get a quorum of members.
yes.
You okay with a special meeting being called?
Yes.
Okay. I don't need to go any further, but Mr. Johnson, would you like to weigh in? Would you like to have a special meeting on those 2 agenda items? Okay. Mr. Bells?
Yes.
Okay. Unanimous then for a special meeting? All right, is there anything else, council, that you would like on a special meeting? Or anything else that you would like on any other future meeting?
Future meeting, I'd like to know the status of well 7. I know we're probably getting dangerously close, but I'd like to hear it from Mr. Don Martin himself.
Okay. Well, number 7, status report. Anything else, council?
Could I get some clarification on one item, please? The draft resolution appointing the Charter Review Commission for a first meeting in January, is that correct?
Okay. Anything else, council? All right, it's 8:28 PM. Meeting is adjourned.